Sir, can I get your first and last name?
My first name is Thomas, last name is Tolliver. I am the MLK Martin Luther King Director here at ASU.
All right. And do you mind telling me where you're from?
I am from Los Angeles, California, southern Los Angeles, California.
So when you say the words LA, what's the first thing that you think of?
So when you say the words LA, the first things I think of is, of course, the negative, me being from LA, the gangs, the crime. But also when I think about LA, I think beaches, palm trees, stuff like that, because outside people always ask about that when it comes to Los Angeles.
So in LA, usually you guys say West Coast. Have you noticed a big difference between the West Coast and the South?
Yes, of course. There's a big difference in the West Coast and the South. And actually, it's just a mindset because we're not that much different. The difference is in certain places in Alabama, the technology's faster than other places. Like Huntsville is really fast, but they're still like 10 years behind in terms of the technology and the lifestyle and culture and all that type of stuff. And Los Angeles is so huge, you have so many different cultures, the Mexican culture, the black culture, you've got the Filipinos, you've got the Chinese, the Japanese, you have just a melting pot of people. And then of course, just according to status, you know, and area that people are located in, it's just such a huge dynamic that it's unique. That's what makes Los Angeles unique, is that so many people are there. There's so much opportunity and just so much to try to get through. Language barriers, business ideas, business functions, infrastructures, and then also just the culture itself. Some cultures aren't used to the structure of different cultures. In the South, it's kind of mellow, but business is happening.
Many people say that taxes in California is high. Do you mind giving your input on that?
Sure. Okay, taxes according to state, it's not very much different in California to Alabama. Alabama taxes is like 9.5 or 9.0. I think California is somewhere up there too, and like 10, maybe even 11%. Everything's high in California in terms of cost, but also the jobs are paying more. There is so much inflation that is happening out west that isn't happening here, and that makes it harder for somebody that's lived here to move there. It was easy for me to move from there to here because I can buy a bigger property, bigger size. I could buy a larger square footage of land here than I could in California. So yes, of course, property taxes are high, taxes are high, but a percentage, but it's pretty much the same because you'll earn higher money, but of course they'll take more. So it actually pans out. I think people put just way too much thought into that, but it is expensive to live. I'm talking about millions of dollars in a place that would cost you $60,000 in the South, which is lovely. That's why I'm still here.
Do you feel that Alabama is a better place to live because it's so cheap, or do you feel like it's a better place to live because of the environment?
Yeah, than California. Most Californians, I tell you, they move out, namely because of the hustle and bustle and just so many people on top of each other. Alabama is a thriving place. However, well, I'm gonna call it what do we call it? What do you call the unseen hand? The powers to be. The powers to be in Alabama make it hard to live in Alabama because of the ways, stuck in their ways. You know, people from other places, like from overseas, from different countries, they don't think like Alabamians. And that's what makes Alabama thrive, because we're bringing new construction, we're bringing new ideas. Alabama has science in NASA here in Alabama. So that tells you, very intelligent people. But there are other intelligent folk that come from other places too, namely California, Colorado, places like that. And so sometimes Alabamians aren't so welcoming to outsiders, but the truth is the hospitality is awesome that I've experienced. The opportunity is great, and there's a lot of excitement to be had here. There's a lot of things to be experienced in Alabama still, like the HBCUs, for instance.
What are some pros and some cons of living in California versus pros and cons of living in Alabama?
Let's get straight into it. Pros and cons of living in Alabama as to living in California. California has terrible traffic. I mean, literally it takes 3 to 4 hours to get to a simple place. Alabama don't have that type of traffic. They do have traffic and lots of accidents. So the pro is Alabama has better traffic than California here. California has a better culture there than here. Even now in 2021, we're still caught up in things like racism and bias and socialism and capitalism. We're still caught up in those things, and those things are dinosaurs. Those things need to be dealt with and moved on. So I'll say the West Coast wins on the culture side of things. Business-wise, Alabama is a fabulous place to do business. You can create your own company, your own LLC, and actually have a face front, a storefront, and actually get some traction going on this end, because you're right in the middle of Atlanta. You're an hour, you're 2 hours to Atlanta, 2 hours to Mobile, 4 hours to Florida, also 3 hours to Nashville. I mean, that is awesome to be able to connect with those types of people, namely Nashville, with Music Row and the content creation that's going on in Nashville right now. Those are wins for the South, and the South has a lot of opportunity that I believe that California just don't have to offer. It's so strategically kept within, who they think should be in power over in California as opposed to Alabama. People can be chief meteorologists here. A friend of mine, chief meteorologist for WHNT, News 19. Awesome guy, had an awesome opportunity. I've made friends with several people through CBS and the news and communication media who wouldn't have never got that opportunity had they been in a bigger market. So Alabama offers a great market here that I think is fabulous, and that's why I'm still here.
The U.S. as a whole has been going through the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you feel that Alabama is doing well in the pandemic versus how California is handling the pandemic? Or how do you feel that everyone's handling the pandemic as a whole, with it being mainly Alabama and California that we're talking about?
All right, so about the pandemic, I was here in Alabama during the pandemic when it first started, and I was in Huntsville, Alabama, and it shut the place down. So if you could imagine California being shut down and Alabama being a smaller version of the state, it's a lot more people being shut down totally. That's an epidemic. that's a crisis, and so you have to deal with them different. I don't think they're equal, and namely, I think Alabama did a fabulous job with it because Governor Ivey jumped on it immediately, set some parameters. I don't know exactly what California did right offhand, but I just know it was even more strenuous when I visited, when I had to go to California for a wedding and a funeral. They really do have strict quarantine rules, and they will ticket you in a minute, put you in jail in a minute over the COVID stuff that we take for granted. We get out over the COVID rules that we take for granted, like wearing a mask. You don't see anybody going to jail here. You don't see anybody enforcing anything pretty much. It's just, hey, if you decide not to wear it, they, people might look at you funny, but, that's pretty much as that's as big as a deal that you're going to get here. But there, you'll literally get locked up by the law for breaking the pandemic rules. So yes, it's very much strategic, very much strategic here, but enforced really harshly over there. And as it should, because we should be taking it serious. And as far as it goes, it's a real thing. You just have people on the fence about what their position is on it. And like I say, it can be confusing, but I say we're doing a good job. We're doing a good job.
All right, thank you for your time, Mr. Tolliver. This is an excellent interview, and we'll send it to you when it's out.
Appreciate you. Thank you, brother.